966.
There's a lot going on in Saudi Arabia's tourism sector that I wanted to run through here. This week, there were two events in the region, a major aviation summit in Riyadh called the Future Aviation Forum, and a tourism and travel event in Dubai, the Arabian Travel Market. Both pretty big events happening basically simultaneously. The Riyadh summit saw speeches and comments from Saudi Arabia's Minister of Energy, which, as it always does, generated some headlines, but also Saudi Arabia's Minister of Transportation. So in between these two events in the region, we had a lot of updates to some storylines that we follow daily in our newsletters. I just mentioned suscg.com, of course, every week here on the 966. But just to rip through them quickly here, because there was really a lot. It's kind of hard to fit into one piece. So I'm just going to sort of update everybody on them. The tourism sector in general in Saudi Arabia, the kingdom is expecting a significant bounce back and already has had one after the pandemic. 62 million domestic and international visits were recorded over the last year, making a 72% recovery to pre-pandemic levels. Impressive. Saudi Arabia aims to exceed 70 million tourist visits this year. To help drive that tourism growth, the kingdom committed to investing $100 billion into its aviation sector by 2030. This is according to Minister of Transport Saleh Al Jasser, who also said the kingdom is expecting to launch a new airline soon. And then down to the project level on NEOM in Saudi Arabia, NEOM's head of tourism, Andrew McEvoy, said the futuristic megacity would welcome its first tourist by 2024. He added the city would have built hotels and be ready to host the first set of tourists within the next 2 years. On the Red Sea project, the visitors will be able to go even sooner than that, with reps from that project on the beautiful Red Sea coast saying it will open 3 new hotels this year and take its first visitors in early 2023. And by the end of 2024, the development will comprise 3,000 rooms across 16 separate resorts, 14 of them right on the coast. In Diriyah in Saudi Arabia, just outside of Riyadh, the development expects to announce $6 billion worth of tenders this year. Of course, Richard, we've talked about this good bit here with all the really nice hotels going up in the area, including the recently announced Armani Hotel. They're hoping to attract around 7 million people annually. And then lastly, in Al Ula, officials said they welcomed 146,000 visitors in 2021. And one official noted that Al Ula will not be a race to get as many tourists as possible, but instead would be more of an intimate destination. Quote, Al Ula will never be a mass tourism destination. It will have between 1 and 2 million annual visitors by 2030. That helps us to offer individualized experience. That doesn't mean everyone will have a personalized service, but it does mean that you'll be in a quiet place where people can have individual private experiences. So Richard, just so much going on in the tourist space in Saudi Arabia right now. We really got a glimpse of that this week. It's sort of the diverse options to visit Saudi Arabia, which are on offer, from luxury relaxation to culture and adventure. Definitely not a one-size-fits-all approach for the Saudis on this. Just a lot going on. I thought it'd be help to try to wrangle it all together just to put our heads around it, because it's sort of a news-making week.
It was a very busy week, and that's a great wrap up. And I think it's important to note that all those different topics you covered were in our review this week.
All of them. Mm-hmm.
Sustig News Review. A lot of them captured in the feature article that Lucian puts together, and it's just sort of and so that's really a nice overview of just what's happened this week.
Mm-hmm. Just this week.
Astounding. So we're in this every day, all day, and we've seen it, and we have the advantage of being at the weeds over a duration, over a long period. So we have a sense of the arc, we have a sense of the change of expectations, and we have a sense of implementation, either good implementation or insufficient implementation. I just think this is really interesting, because especially when you juxtapose what you just talked about, the tourists. So the tourists have bounced back. A lot of those are domestic tourists, which is a big part of their thing, their plan. And then the $100 billion of investment into its aviation infrastructure, commercial aviation infrastructure. Although they also want to really increase their shipping, loads as well. But my point is this, you see a lot of things coming together. You can almost envision, whoever is in the back room making all the plans going, okay, the global travel and tourism, direct contribution to GDP globally in 2020 was approximately $4.7 trillion. There's huge ecosystems, in the US in 2020, that was 1.1 trillion alone. The most frequent destinations are France, Spain, and the US. Enormous amounts of income, enormous numbers of jobs created.
Mm-hmm.
It's a transformational industry. And you can see them going, okay, how do we do this? Let's start with let's identify and create domestic attractions. So then you start seeing these amazing places like Al Ula or Red Sea and Amala, Diriyah, all these really impressive and exciting and new places to be seen by people, maybe initially by Saudis, ultimately by foreigners. Then you have to develop an acceptable hospitality industry because there aren't people, so they've been trying to do that for a number of years, train people up how to be capable in the industry. Then you have to build a sufficient stock of hotels ranging the gamut from, price ranges. So like you just noted, you have luxury down to, not luxury, but less, I'm not sure what the term is, but
like culture and adventure seeking
mid-range,
stuff.
Mid-range, exactly. Yeah. And then, what they've done, and then you go after domestic tourism. But then, if you want the next big whale, that's international tourism. Mm-hmm. And so if you've built something that people want to come see, now let's build something that can get them there. And this is, that $100 billion investment in airlines, and a lot of that's infrastructure. It's not only, building a new airline, introducing a new airline, but also, refurbishing and privatizing 29 airports. Mm-hmm. That's the plan. They've tried it before, but that's the plan. But building a new airport in Riyadh. So you see them, and that was one of the key things that was mentioned by one of the speakers at this aviation event. He basically said, we're talking about an ecosystem, and the multiplier effect associated with that ecosystem. And so in my mind, you see this, they see the vision, they want to get a slice of that global travel industry. They see it as a sector, that's going to eventually be on par in terms of contribution to GDP with other sectors. There's the three primary ones: oil, petrochemical, and mining. We'll talk about later. But it's just fascinating to see them move along on this and how each piece is a part of a bigger whole, and it does hang together. And so anyway, your wrap up to me speaks to sort of, it captures parts of the whole picture that are starting to come together.
I'm glad you put it that way, because if you think about all this stuff and you just approach it from the here and now and not from the view of, we've been watching this for over a decade for me and way longer for you. When we talk about a nascent tourism industry in Saudi Arabia, by that we mean literally no tourist visas, no tourists at all, just domestic tourism, and then Hajj religious tourism or business visits, and that's it. And so this is sort of like, it's interesting because it's hard to think of another country where this has gone on. Virtually every country is as old as its tourism industry. And I'm just trying to think of off the top of my head, if anyone is had to do this where they've been completely closed off and then are saying, wait, this is, we're leaving a lot of money on the table here, but also like, there's a lot to see and do here. Let's develop this. And like you said, it takes a very significant, and it takes time, but it takes an approach that involves developing the spots, developing a reason to come, and then a way to get them here. And then, where we are now is sort of a way to market what you're offering to the world. And this show in Dubai was really big. The ruler of Dubai attended. The Middle East is really, especially the UAE and Saudi Arabia are really going after that international segment, as you said, especially from Europe and the United States. So just really cool to see. This is just like, it's just kind of mind blowing, frankly, to think that they had nothing, just a few years ago.
Well, and that's part of the thing that's interesting, because the Saudis don't have it. They're late to the game. The Emiratis have it. They've done it. They do it well. They have real attractions. Obviously, I think Dubai is maybe the most, the busiest international transit airport in the world. Saudis don't have it. What's fascinating is that they've decided to go get it, and you see them putting the pieces together. And in some ways, I have to think they've been very pleased by the response to their domestic tourism sites, especially Al Ula, and with the Red Sea coming on, and eventually Qiddiya is going to be there, and Riyadh, and they have major, and they're building a huge tourist ecosystem in Taif, down in the south east, in the mountains. So they're doing that part, and now they've got to get people there. And then the last part of that thing is what you talked about, is promote, because they're not there yet, but you can see them aiming to get there, and you can see them sort of trying to put the puzzle pieces together and make it all fit.
None of this is without its hiccups either. I mean, you mentioned that they tried to privatize the airports before, hired Goldman Sachs to do it, didn't work out. They're trying again now. I saw recently this week, and I think, Richard, you sent this to me, but the CEO of the Jeddah airports was sacked, because apparently he wasn't doing a great job and there was issues. I mean, this is a learning process. There are going to be mistakes and missteps, but the vision is there.
But there's an example of the details. The backup at the Jeddah airport was a result of all the Hajj and Umrah companies, all the people that come in under their sponsorship, under their programs, whatever. They send all those people to the airport 12 hours in advance, which of course makes no sense, but they're doing that just in case there's any kind of glitch in the processing or whatever. This is a habit out of old days. I think it's better now. So you've got just scores of immigrant groups and others, hanging out in the airport, and of course it's backed up. And so, these are the things you got to work through to be a tourist destination. And, Saudi Arabia has decided they're going to work through it. They're not there yet. And I should also add, and we'll have it later when we talk about the mining, they throw out a $32 billion number, but that $100 billion number is not, Saudis aren't just forking over 100 billion. They're trying to get 100 billion in investments.
Right.
CIF will be a leader in all this, and they'll invest a lot of their own money, but they're counting on significant investments from foreign sources, non-Saudi sources, or even maybe private sector Saudi sources if they want a piece of this. The point being is they may not hit that 100 billion mark, but you can see where they're headed, and you can see the parts they're trying to bring together to make this machine work, and it's fascinating to me.
Richard, the last time I was in Jeddah, they right before they launched the new Jeddah airport, a little guest appearance from Coco there. I'm sorry for that. I just sort of remembered it was right around the time of the Umrah, and it was, again, the old Jeddah airport, which was ranked second worst in the world. And my goodness, it was overcrowded. Some things you just never forget. That's one of them. And you contrast that with Dubai, where you get off the airplane and you just don't stop walking all the way through customs and immigration because it's just so beautifully efficient. So, and Saudi sees that. They see what the opportunity is there and, how to get there. But, sorry to interrupt. And they've improved it, but, you're still dealing with this tremendous influx, over a limited period of immigrants in that case in Jeddah. But they have a ways to go, but they're trying to get there. Mm-hmm. So just the last thing I want to add, there's a theme that comes up on the show all the time. Fahd Nasser from the embassy said it. It's really echoed with pretty much everybody we've talked to. And the one way to get people to understand Saudi Arabia is to visit it. And, that's what I think that's going to help change a lot of perceptions of Saudi Arabia, is when it's more acceptable and more commonplace to go visit Saudi and socially here in the United States. Hey, have you visited Saudi Arabia? Yeah, it's cool. It's awesome. It's different than what I thought. So there's a lot at stake here with this, which I think is, interesting. But
agreed. And, I guess Al Ula had 146,000 visitors last year. And, 5 years ago, they had 8. Mm-hmm. So, 8. It's clearly on the pickup. People are very excited about the things that you can do and the things you can see. And the more, the more to go, the better. Mm-hmm. Like you say.